Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to start the chapter number 3 from subject web frameworks, that is Node.js modules. We are going to start chapter number 3 from subject web frameworks, Node.js modules. Okay. So in Node.js, we have seen that some basic concepts regarding Node.js, how to install that Node.js, some data types, their variable declarations, some features of Node.js. Okay, so today we are going to see that modules in Node.js. We will start with Node.js functions. So in JavaScript, it is a functional programming language. Functions are fully type objects that can be manipulated, extended, and passed around as data. Here you can see a normal function structure in JavaScript is defined as like this. Here you can see the example of or the declaration of function. Here function, then function name, parenthesis, opening curly brace, that is function body, and optional return statement here. Here you can see optional return statement and that closing bracket here. Here you can see the syntax of functional declaration in JavaScript, that is function, function name, okay, opening closing bracket, then inside the curly braces that function body is there and optional return statement is there. Okay, this is the declaration or the structure of function in JavaScript. Then in JavaScript all functions return a value. Okay, all function returns a value. In the absence of an explicit return statement, a function returns undefined. That means if that return statement is not there, that function will return undefined. Okay, here you can see the example. Here see function my data is the function name with the with the body of that function is return 1 2 3. Okay, here this function will return 1 2 3, so it will print console.log my data. Okay, we are going to print the function my data here. Here you can see the opening and closing bracket, and console.log is used for printing. Okay, so console.log inside my data function, that function we are going to print what that function consists of. Return statement return 1 2 3, so output of that function will be 1 2 3. Okay, here you can see the another function is there, function my value. Okay, without any statement, without any return statement, if we are going to print that console.log inside the bracket my value function. Okay, so here you can see here in this function there is no body for that function or there is no return statement, and we are going to print that function here, you can see. But if there is no any return statement, so it will print as undefined. Okay, it will give output as undefined. See the differences between these two functions, function with that return statement and function without return statement. Okay, then here you can see the example of that how we can create that function in JavaScript. Here you can see function hello. Here see the function name is hello with the parameter name, function having parameter name. Then open the curly braces and print that function here with that parameter like console.log inside that hello string. Here hello plus name, that is the parameter of that function we are going to print here, and we are going to the input to that parameter like hello is your function name, and parameter for that is in double quote css, that is the name. Okay, any name you can give, this is the parameter of that hello function. Here what is the output of that function? You can directly execute this function in the Node.js. Like here you can see the output of that function is hello with this parameter css. Okay, so this is the parameter of css. Okay, sorry, parameter of that function hello. In first and second chapter, we have seen that how to install that Node.js, how to run that Node.js programs, how to write that Node.js programs. Okay, so in Windows you can install that Node.js and some Microsoft Visual Studio for that. Okay, in that you can code that Node.js or JavaScript program, and you can inside that Visual Studio you can run that script. Okay, so you can run this as using like node and program name like node, for example app.js. Okay, so here this function you can run directly here, function hello with the parameter console.log is for printing. What it will print in double quote, here you can see the string hello and with that parameter plus name here. And we are going to pass the input to that parameter like hello, that is function name, with the string css. It will give output as hello css. This is the example of how we can create the function. Okay. So here, to declare parameters for a function in JavaScript, list them in the parentheses like this. Here we have list in that parenthesis of that function name. Okay, so there is no checking of these parameters at runtime. Runtime it is not going to check that parameter, or it will take that parameter at runtime. Here you can see the example function hello with the parameter name. After opening that curly brace, console.log hello string with the parameter plus name. Then after closing that function's body, we are going to call that function. Here you can see the hello without any parameter. Okay, next hello with the parameters. Here there are several parameters with the size here. Okay, so how this code will execute, or what is the output of that code here? Here you can see the hello undefined. Why? Because undefined here, because here you can see the hello without any return statement, or there is no parameter passes to this function here. Okay, so that's why it will print that hello without parameter means undefined. And next statement is hello with the parameter, so it will print as hello, and it will print only first parameter. Why? Because will see here. Okay, here you can see if too few parameters are passed into a function call. Here too few parameters are passed into a function call, the resulting variables are assigned the value undefined. Here you can see the resulting value will assign the value undefined, because there are no parameter here, or too few parameters. That's why it's undefined here. Okay, then if too many parameters are passed in, here you can see too many parameters are passed in, the extras are simply unused. Okay, the extras are simply unused here. Okay, so that's why it will print only the first one. Okay, so all functions have a predefined array in the body called arguments. These are the arguments. Okay, it has all the values that were passed into the function, and we can do extra checking on the parameter list. Here extra parameters were passed in to that function. Here we have seen the function how with no parameter and with parameter. Okay, then functions in JavaScript do not even need to have names. Without giving name to that function, we can execute that function also. Here you can see the example for this variable declaration where x is equals to function inside the parameters. Here you can see we have not given any parameters to this function. Okay, directly we are passing uh, parameters in that parenthesis. Okay, variable x is equals to function inside that bracket a comma b, and we are going to return here the body of the function is return a plus b. Okay, and close the body of the function and write the statement console.log inside that x in bracket 10 comma 20. This is the value for a and value for b, and this x is variable. What that variable consists of? It consists of that function a comma b. And what is the body for that function? That is return a plus b. Return what? It will return addition of these two parameters here. So x will add these two parameters, that is 10 comma 20, so that when we are going to execute this code, it will return the result of that a plus b, that is 10 plus 20, that is 30. Okay, so without any function name we can execute, or we can create a function without name. Okay, so the nameless function are typically called as anonymous function. What is that anonymous function? Is without giving name to that function or that nameless functions are typically called as anonymous function. Okay, okay, then function scope. Here every time a function is called, then a new variable scope is created. Whenever we are going to call that function, at that time a new variable scope is created. Then that variables declared in the parent scope are available to that functions. Whatever the variables are declared in the parent scope that are available to the created function, or sorry, to that created scope. Okay, then that variables declared within the new scope are not available when the function exists. See this carefully. Whenever we are going to create or execute any function and the new scope is created, at that time that variable is declared within the new scope. are not available when that function exists. Okay, so here you can see, consider this following code. That's example, like variable pet is equals to cat. That pet variable consisting the cat. Okay, then that function my method, this is the function having named my method, with that function body consists of variable pet is equals to dog. Then console.log print that pet, that is printing, we are going to print that variable with that value. Okay, so after closing the body of that function, here we are going to call that my method function. Okay, here you can see, and next statement is console.log pet. So how this code will execute, it will give output as dog and cat, sorry cat. First it will print dog. Why it will print the dog, and why after that cat is there? Yeah, because here we have seen variables declare in the parent scope are available to that function, and variables declared within the new scope are not available when that function exists. Here you can see, first we will call the my method function. Okay, so for after calling the my method function, what it will consist, variable pet is equals to dog, and it will print that variable pet consisting of the value dog here. So it will first print that dog, and after that it will execute the statement console.log pet. So what pet will consist of here? Cat. So it will first print the dog, then cat here. Okay, so why? Because this, the parent scope are available to that function here, you can see. Okay, then next one is Node.js higher order function. Higher order function we will see. So immediately, what is that higher order execution? Sorry, higher order function is immediately executing function. Immediately executing function means we can execute a function immediately after we are going to define it. Whenever after defining that function, we are immediately executing that function. Then simply wrap the function in parentheses and invoke it. Here you can see, simply wrap the function in parentheses and invoke it. Okay, see the example of that higher order function here. Function, here you can see, within the parenthesis we are going to write that function. Okay, function my data, this is the name of that function within parenthesis. See this function my data with the body console.log print my data was executed, and close the body of that function. Okay, then close that opening bracket of that function here, and here you can see this is the function parenthesis here. Okay, so this is the way we can declare that higher order function or write the higher order function here. Here you can see an immediately executing function creates a new variable scope. Here we are going to execute that function immediately after declaring or creating function. We are directly here, we are directly executing or calling this function. Okay, so an immediately executing function creates a new variable scope. And here you can see if, else or while does not create a new variable scope in JavaScript. Remember this, if statement or if loop, else or while loop does not create a new variable scope in JavaScript. Okay, so how to declare or create a higher order function, or what is higher order function, how to call this function? Okay, immediately executing function, that is higher order function. Okay, see the example for this. Here variable my data is equals to 123. That my data variable consists of value 123. If it is true, then variable my data is equals to 456. Okay, so we are going to print that console.log, and what we are going to print, that variable my data. So what it will print, it will print 456. Why? Because variable my data is equals to 1 to 3. If it is true, then it will execute this. Okay, so what we are, if this is true, then we are going to print this my data value, that is 456. Yeah, the only recommended way of creating a new variable scope in JavaScript is using a function. Using a function we can create a new scope or new variable scope. Here you can see the following code shows how to create a new variable scope with an immediately executing function. Here you can see we are going to create the new scope here with the what we can say, with the variable scope. Here you can see variable my data is equals to 1 2 3. If it is true, then we are going to execute the body of this if loop. Here you can see inside that we are creating a new scope here. Here see, open the bracket, then write function without function name. Okay, function we are going to call here, and body of that function is variable my data is equals to 456. Close the body of that function. Okay, then close the parenthesis of that function and execute here. See this opening and closing bracket direct, that means immediately executing this function, that is higher order function. Okay, here we are going to create a new scope, then we are directly executing this function, and after closing this, close that if loop and print that console.log my data, that is it will print 123. Why it will print 123 here? Here you can see. Yes, variable my data is equals to 1 to 3. If it is true, we are going to create a new scope here. We are going to create the new scope here and executing that function immediately here. That is, that function consists of variable my data is equals to 456, and what we are going to print here, console.log my data, that is 123. It will print that my data as 123. Okay. Then anonymous function. What is anonymous function? We have seen that function without a name is called an anonymous function. Okay, function without name, that is anonymous function. In JavaScript, we can we can assign a function to a variable. How we can assign that function to a variable? We will see here. If you are going to use the function as a variable, listen this and listen carefully. Okay, so in JavaScript we can assign a function to a variable. If you are going to use the function as a variable, you don't need to name the function. Okay, so that is without name, that function is anonymous function, and we can assign that function to variable. That means we can use a function as a variable. Okay, so here you can see that sample code here. It will shows two ways of defining a function in line here. Okay, here you can see variable f001. Okay, this is the variable f001, that is foo1. This is the variable is equals to function name function. Here this is the name of that function. Okay, name of that function, and body of that function consists of console.log in bracket foo1. That means we are going to print this variable. Okay, and after closing the body of that, we are calling this function, we are calling this variable, that is f001 foo1 with that opening and closing bracket. What this function will print? It will print f001, that is it will print that variable. Why? Because we are here, you can see that function, we are going to use that function as a variable. That variable consists of this function. Okay, so now that f001, that is that variable is act as a function here. Here you can see that variable act as a function. Okay, so it will print that console.log f001, that will it will print foo1. Okay, then another type is, here you can see variable foo2 is equals to function without name, that is anonymous function. This is the example of with function name. And now function without name, here you can see that is anonymous function. This function, here you can see the variable foo2 is equals to function, open the body, then write console.log and print f002, then call this variable. That means why this variable? Because now this variable act as a function here, so it will print this f002. Okay, so this is example with the name function and without name, that is no function name, that is anonymous function, and this is the name function. Now here we have seen that variable act as a function, that means function as a variable. Okay, so a programming language is said to have first class function if a function can be treated the same way as any other variable in the language. Here that variable act as a function. Okay, like function call, we are going to call that variable because that variable consists of that function. Okay, so JavaScript has a first class function here. And next topic is higher order functions. Higher order functions. Here, since JavaScript allows us to assign functions to variables, we can pass functions to other functions. Okay, JavaScript allows us to assign functions to variables. We have seen that we are going to assign the function to that variable, and so that we can pass function to other functions. Okay, like passing parameters to that function, we are going to pass functions to that function. How we will see here. Here you can see that functions that take functions as an argument are called as higher order functions. What is higher order functions? Functions that take functions as an argument. That means we are going to pass that argument to that function, like that is function we will pass as an argument to that function. Okay. Then here you can see a very common example of a higher order function is set timeout. Here you can see the set timeout function. It is a predefined function, set timeout function, and parameters we are going to pass the function, that is function. Okay, we are going to pass the parameter to set timeout function, that is function as a parameter. What that function consists of? It will print console.log, that is 2000 milliseconds have passed since this demo started. This is the parameter to that set timeout function. Okay, after closing this body, comma 2000, here you can see the parameter for set timeout method or function. First we will pass the function with that another parameter here. Okay, here you have seen that function with argument as a function, that is higher order function. Okay, functions that take function as an argument. Okay, so when if you run this application in Node.js, we will see the output like, we will see this message after 2 seconds. Okay, yeah, this is the delay timeout time. So yeah, we have said the timeout with this message. This message is written inside that function, or we are going to pass this function as a argument to the another function. Okay, this is the higher order function. Here we use an anonymous function as the first argument to set timeout. This is the anonymous function because this function does not have any name. Okay, so this makes set timeout a higher order function. We can create a function and passing that in. Okay, here you can see function foo. We can create a function and we can pass that function to that another function. Here you can see, now we are going to create a function with the name foo with the message. Okay, and after that, to set timeout function, we are going to pass this function as an argument. Here you can see the function name and the another parameter of, that is the delay timeout here. Okay, so that's it for today's session. Okay, we have seen that Node.js functions, then anonymous functions, higher order functions. Okay, so that's it for today's session. We will stop here. Thank you.